was a little bit early. A little bit early for that live stream. Give you all a chance to get here. Okay, get into it. Good morning, Matthias. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the video. The first training session. The first training session on the long road to improvement. Very excited about it. Excited to get jacked, as they say. It's going to be a tough couple of weeks. I'm ready for it. Lucky 13, thank you, how are you doing? Hopefully we can get a little bit of motivation in the chat today to crush this session. The first of many, and we're starting off small. Some big improvements over the weeks. What's my CTL? I think it's around about 75. The numbers look big, but the actual the number of intervals and everything is fairly small. But we're going to build up slowly over the coming weeks. Hopefully this is just the start of showing you them. If you enjoy this and you follow along and you get anything from it, let me know. And I'll obviously do a lot more. Trying to switch my mind into something else, bring a different mentality to the table with these. I ain't gonna win by doing easy stuff, am I? That's the truth. Daggy next to you, how are you doing? How is the wonderful country today? These intervals are going to do one thing, they're going to harden my mind for sure. I feel like I've got a soft mentality when it comes to doing these. It's time to toughen it. you're focusing on Zwift racing, like it'll pay for you to do some of those intervals now. Hey Peter, how you doing? No, this isn't Zwift Academy. This is Ed mode. Got a new video coming tonight from yesterday, winning the hill climb on Hartside Pass. Hartside Moor, Hartside Fell. Hope you enjoy it. Unfortunately, my GoPro did not record, so I was carrying dead weight up the climb. We love it. It's the Edward Academy. Nice one, Peter. I'll take a look. Looks like we're heading up then too. On to. Morning, Mike. How are you? Getting this warm up in, and then we're into the workout. Now I have a bit of a golden rule regarding erg mode. I'll never use it for any effort that's like shorter than 5 minutes. Usually because it tends to jam a certain cadence on you, and if you don't keep that moving, your cadence will die off and it becomes a lot harder to actually maintain the power, because in your mind it feels harder. In actual fact, it's not actually getting harder, it's just fatigue, but erg mode is preventing you from moving from it. In the real world, you know, obviously you wouldn't have erg mode outside. You'd be tied down, and you would have to ride to what the road is doing. You would press a little bit more on the rises, and then it would drop a little bit when you're on a flat bit of road, but that's completely normal. Never beat yourself up if you can't do an interval because of erg mode, because it's not real anyway. Erg mode is terrific for, like, you know, FTP efforts or sweet spot efforts, but short efforts, you're far better off being your own master of your success or failure. I'm specifically targeting these intervals today and from now on over the next 5 or 6 weeks. There'll be various variations of this workout as I improve and get better and stronger. And you know, it's no secret, this is like my weakness. I struggle mentally and physically with it, and so over the next coming weeks I hope to change both of those things. My mental resilience with these efforts and my physical ability, and I really wish I can turn myself into a beast when it comes to these. Thank you, Brad. Okay. Getting a suitable gear ready. Let's go. The reality is, these intervals are fairly comfortable until you get to the second set. I've used eye levels to work out the type of power I need to do for correct training for these intervals, or accurate then, but also I based it on what my best sort of 1 minute power is. A bit like your 1 rep max in the gym. My best 1 minute power at the minute is probably around 620 watts. So for me to do these intervals at 550 for 30 seconds, like I said, the first few were okay, but the last few, yeah, no doubt. At least the hill climb yesterday was a good warm up for this. Yeah, stay tuned for the last few then. I think we should have a guess. How far up this climb am I going to finish at the end of the hour session? Well, not really, Peter. I mean, sort of, but not really. This is obviously, this is not aerobic, you know. If this was, this power that I'm pushing, eventually when I stitch it all together, I want to be able to do better sub 3 minute effort. And for the most part, my aerobic engine is about as good as it's ever going to be. So there's not really much else I could do with that. Anaerobically though, I'm pretty poor. But you'd expect that for somebody who has such a large aerobic ability. So this is my secret weapon now, really, even though it's not secret. Like, I'm trying to improve this ability and sacrifice my FTP, because my FTP is not gonna, well, it plays a small part maybe, but a 3-minute effort for the British Hill Climb Championships is another story. Percentage, what is the percentage? 375 watt FTP, so 375 watt FTP, and I'm 61 kilos, so you'll have to work that out. 550 watts, I'm not sure. Quarter of the way through. To give you a bit of context, my big goal is at the end of this to go to the National Hill Climb Championships and be able to do about 500 watts for 3 minutes. That's my big goal. And at the minute we're at 490 watts for 3 minutes. So, 10 watts to find. And yeah, I'm confident I'll find it as well. What's my max heart rate? It's around about 180, in the 180s. Yeah, that's right, Peter, yeah. No worries, Biggs. Tell you what, these 3 minutes absolutely fly. I'm going to try one in the drops. So what have we got with this one? Why sacrifice it? Because what's actually happening is the majority of the power that I'm producing in a maximum 3-minute effort, according to analytics software WKO, is about 60-40. So I'm producing a lot of power aerobically, which is actually very good. But it does kind of limit me in the sense that I can't produce like lots of power in a very short space of time. I'm more of like a slow burner. So I could potentially keep doing that effort for 3 minutes, for 4 or 5 minutes. Whereas other people would have a much more aggressive power curve because they have more anaerobic power contribution. And obviously on a short climb, it is kind of more about raw power. Obviously you've got to be able to sustain it, but that's where your aerobic ability comes into a certain extent. You can't just be purely anaerobic because you will die off. But it's this that I struggle with. I struggle with getting that, big amount of power out. Even if it's only for half of the 3-minute effort, it's still going to help. If I'm aerobic for the rest of that 3 minutes, it's still going to help in some way. And to be honest, my FTP is at such a place now, I think we can all agree that I probably don't need to fall back on it. Like, it's good enough to a certain extent. My FTP is pretty big. And I showed that yesterday at Hartside with 391 watts for nearly 17 minutes. At 60 kilos. No, Patrick. Unfortunately, that goal is gone now. The 7 watt per kilo for 20 minutes has flown the nest. I won't be able to do that this year now, because it's too late in the year, and I won't have that fitness for it. And also, I can't put any emphasis on that because it doesn't really serve a purpose. We'll try again next year. Try again next year when things might fall into place a little bit better. But it's why I haven't been talking about it much, because it's not going to happen now. Last one of this set. Cheers, Simon. It's going to take me a while to catch you. Do I have a month or week in the year where I just ride without structure? I have quite a few. I have quite a few weeks in the year where I ride without structure. Certainly not a bad thing to do. I think my wish is that more people would, or at least more people would voice their opinion on it, because surprisingly, you know, training is training. Like you don't always expect to get your best performances in training, and to a certain extent you shouldn't. You might have a couple of breakthrough sessions, but they're not very common. And you know, funny really, but the unstructured weeks, or the unstructured sessions, or the free rides, as I like to call them, do tend to give people that breakthrough. Why can I push out good power on the trainer indoors but not outdoors? Do you ride more indoors than you do outdoors? I know lots of people who will say the exact same thing, Patrick. It's mainly because when you ride outdoors, it's a whole different thing. When you ride indoors, there's no variables. You're just pressing on the pedals, and you know, you can push in anger and there won't be a problem. You know, it's a constant thing. Whereas when you're outdoors, there's potholes in the road. You know, there's people, you've got to watch for cars and traffic. There's lots of things happening, so your power might well be lower But like me, my power is actually higher outside than inside, because I actually prefer riding outside. And you know, that's my job. I ride outside. It's my thing. So I can deal with it probably. And say if I was doing these intervals outside, which is a great question, Patrick. If I was doing these outside, unlike indoors where I can see my power and I can see the effort I'm putting in, I can see my cadence, everything is there within eye shot. I can see everything. When I'm outside, if I was doing this session on a hill, I wouldn't look at any of this, because it's too much. You know, you're looking down at your computer, then you're looking up, then you've got to watch your traffic. So I would just go and do the efforts. But what I've learned from years and years of riding, especially with the power meter, is to really never ever let your outdoor power get to you, because people can get very annoyed about, you know, oh, I've lost 10 watts because I had to stop for a car or a traffic jam or something. Like, you should never, like, that should never come into the equation. Like, you should never have to worry about that. You know, there's bigger things in life to worry about than losing a couple of watts or not being able to do the session as effectively as you could indoors. But I say effectively like that in air quotes, because it's no more effective doing it indoors than it is outdoors, in my opinion. It's only effective if you think it's more effective. And if you think it's more effective, then crack on. Personally, I think this is more effective doing indoors, because I don't have to worry about going up and down the same hill and turning around and watching for cars. So certain things work for certain people. Cheers, Peter. Yeah, that's interesting, that is, Philip. So yeah, a lot of people's power BBs will come outdoors, mainly because they can't see the power, and you know, you're often just going for it because you just want to go for it. I think 550 watts is, I don't know, my FTP is 375, so I don't know, work it out. I'm not sure. Last set. That was a good one. Tips for pushing hard watts on slight downhills. Well, it comes with practice, that. I've learned that what's really the key to that is you're obviously pushing a bigger gear, and it's about spinning that bigger gear at the RPM necessary to create the power. So you need to do more of it, really. You know, slight downhills of like 2% gradient, -2%. You need to just get used to being in that big gear and pushing it. You know, we often did motor pacing where you're behind a motorbike. I'm not saying this is what you need to do, but when you're behind the motorbike and you're doing 30 miles an hour, you're in your biggest gear and you have to push that big gear. But that big gear doesn't it's not any bigger, you know, because you're pushing it at the same cadence as you would if you were going uphill, but in a tiny gear. But it's just that force and the torque and everything's different when you're moving at a higher speed. So it's more about the sensation of how it feels. When you start going downhill and you have to keep pedaling hard, it feels strange. But when you do, say, a lot of tempo riding, so say zone 3 work, it's a really good way of teaching your brain how to just keep that pressure on. So zone 3 is a great way of getting that in, because it's not too hard and it's not too easy. Yeah, pal. How you doing? Yeah, I did do A levels. I really had to structure it around that, really, because your education is obviously important. So it just depended on what I had on that day, and I'd plan it out in advance. So if I had a big day of work, a big day of education, big day of college, I would end up like scheduling a rest day. Likewise, if I was doing like a half day in college, I would probably do my endurance rides in the afternoon. But I did end up doing a lot of double days, so a lot of like early mornings and late evenings on the bike. There's no like, to be honest, I just fitted it in where I could, but most of my endurance is on the weekend. Hey up, Simon. I'm coming. I can see you. You're just by my gate. You can join me for my next 9.5 watt per kilo 30-second effort. No erg mode for this, just ed mode. Just ed mode. Actually really enjoying this now. Here we come, Si. Here we go. There's Si. Thank you, Paul. How's things with you? Yeah, Angus, I can't really remember, like, specifics, but it was probably about 15 hours I was doing, roughly. I can't say for certain, but when I think back on it, and I think, yeah, I did a fair few 5-hour rides on a Sunday, and I must have done, 3 or 4 hour rides on a Saturday, with my riding in the week as well. Must have been fairly close to that number. I have to say, like, I was a pretty naive, cyclist when I was younger. I always thought I had to work harder than other people to catch up. So my indoor FTP is the same as my outdoor FTP. I've done enough Zwift racing and indoor efforts to know that it's fairly close. It's fairly similar, so I don't actually worry about it. I'd only worry about it if it was like massively different, and I know some people who do have big differences in indoor and outdoor, but really, I think you'd know, if you were struggling to do it indoors, you'd know, and you just drop it by a bit. For the most part though, you're talking marginals. Yeah, I'm doing that, Hal. I'm doing it. Nice one, Angus. Try and answer these last few questions. So, since it's not erg mode, why not just do max efforts? Well, that's not the point of the session. for one, and you'll be forgiven for thinking, like, if you just tune in and just watch this, like, you might think I had a rest day yesterday, or, you know, we always assume that someone's going to go max in a training session, but it's all about that consistency, and it's also all about setting the bar low so you can progress and move on. And to a certain extent, you might look at this and think, oh, well, he's recovering really easily and, like, he's making it look easy, but it's far from that. The last 10 seconds of this last set of each interval is really starting to bite, and it's about that consistency, and it's about, like, I'm training in the area where I know that's where I believe the model is where I should be, you know, is where I should be doing it. I'm not aiming to do a maximal effort and then, you know, recovering for 3 minutes and then try to go max again, and because there'll be an inevitable drop off. I'm trying to be consistent across the board and get the stimulus that's going to be effective but also measurable and, you know, progressive. So the next time I come and do it, you know, I know this is what I did last time. Can I improve it? If you just go max, then, you know, max is max. Like, your max is different every single day. So if I was to go max today and then do the same session next week and go max again, and I do less power, then what's that going to do to me mentally? So it's not just about the physical ability, but it's your mental ability as well. You've got to teach your brain that you're trying to work at something. Is 30 seconds long enough for that with full recovery? Yes. Again, my answer to you is progression. You might find these easy. I don't find them easy. So it's about that progression. Everybody's different. My progression from this is going to be 45-second intervals, minute intervals, and eventually, the closer we get to game day, 3-minute intervals. And it's just wiring. You're wiring yourself. And if you think the session is, you know, the thing is, like, we're all guilty of it to a certain extent. We're all worried if that session is going to be good enough. Like, oh, am I doing it right? 30 seconds, is it long enough? The trouble is, if you worry about it, you never do it. And for the most part, I tell people, you just got to do it. Because you won't know until you do it. And if I manage this and I see a good, steady power throughout, then I know it's ready to up the progression. So you've got to start somewhere. No, Paul, you'll have to run another FTP test. But I wouldn't recommend you doing an FTP test straight away. So you're going to have to do at least a week of riding just to get you back into the routine. Otherwise your heart rate might be the limiter to your actual output. So add another week on to that time frame. Well, eventually I'll be working up to an interval session in a couple of weeks' time. This is 6 minutes of total intensity. I'll be doing 18 minutes of total intensity in one of my hardest sessions. So that's one way of looking at that progression. That's just one way of looking at it. Okay, here we go. Let's have a dig. Last rep, best rep. Finished. Oh, I certainly am. Oh, the way I feel now. The way I feel now is not very nice. But it's good. Hi Jonathan, sorry, late to your reply. Any tips for someone struggling to match a power outdoors they can do indoors? Is there an issue with core strength? Most people see it the other way around. No, I was explaining earlier, Jonathan, about like the variations in power outside. Your power always seems like it's all over the place outside, and inside it's like a piece of cake in reality. I don't mean to offend anybody, but when you train indoors, it's very easy. When you ride indoors, it's very easy. When you ride outdoors, it's very difficult because you have so many things that are fighting against you when it comes to holding correct power and all those things, and it all comes with practice. When I first had a power meter, about 7 years ago, I actually raced for a long time without a power meter. I trained with a power meter, but I never raced with one. But when I had one on my bike for the first time and I could ride it every day and race with it, I noticed how bad I was at doing intervals outdoors, and we didn't have Zwift then. And when I did my intervals first time with a power meter, I was all over the place. It was 30 watts here, 30 watts there, and I was getting very frustrated, and I had to always go and do them on a flat road with no wind or anything. And I got to the point where I had to just basically get used to it, and it took a long time. It took a long time. Okay. Should we see what the damage is on the graph? Thanks, guys. Finished. I have to say, I like that little warm-up at the start there. I like that little warm-up with those intervals and the two surges. Oh. So, nothing out of this world, just a very consistent session, consistent intervals. I didn't want it to disappear. Can take that to the drawing board now. and progress on it. All about the progression. Oh, let's have a look. Tasty. So I was between about 550 and 600 watts for each of those 30-second intervals, which, considering my best 1 minute power is close to 600 watts, then that's working quite close to that level and being able to repeat it. And hopefully it's just the right amount so that I can continue normal training tomorrow and then get back to another session on Thursday. So thanks for joining, everyone. Quick, short and sharp. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned. Video tonight from yesterday's hill climb. So thanks for watching. Crack on with your riding. Paul, wish you all the very best, buddy. And I'll see you all soon.